Mike stood still, his body slightly turned, shielding Tyler from the police officers standing in front of them. His eyes were tired, full of years of sacrifice, and today full of quiet sadness. Mike, a tall black man with short white hair, wore a clean white shirt that clung to his back from the heat and stress. Behind him stood Tyler, a skinny white teenage boy with messy blonde hair and a nervous look in his eyes. He wore a gray shirt and kept glancing at the officer without saying a word. The officer, dressed in a sharp black uniform, stood with his arms crossed, looking from Mike to Tyler and back again. "We have video footage showing someone near the lockers during the theft. The boy's name was mentioned by the school staff. I need to ask him some questions," he said in a firm voice. Mike stepped slightly to the side, but kept his arms stretched protectively in front of Tyler. "Can't this be handled at the school? He's just a kid. Whatever happened, I'm sure it was a misunderstanding." The officer raised an eyebrow. "You're saying you were there?" Mike hesitated for just a second, then nodded slowly. I was dropping something off. Maybe that's what was seen." Tyler's eyes widened, and he looked up at Mike in surprise. The officer narrowed his gaze. "Are you admitting you were near the locker when the tablet went missing?" Mike sighed and nodded again. "Yes, if that's what it takes to settle this." Tyler opened his mouth but said nothing. His heart was pounding. Mike was lying. Tyler knew it. Mike hadn't even been at school that day. Tyler had taken the tablet on a dare from some kids in his class, and when he got caught, he panicked. He said something stupid. He told the principal that maybe Mike had taken it. "He's always around," Tyler had muttered, thinking no one would take it seriously. But now here Mike was, standing in front of a police officer, ready to take the blame. The officer glanced at his notes. "You realize this could turn into something serious. You're sure about your story?" Mike gave a small nod. "I'm sure." The officer sighed. "All right, we'll follow up with the school, but I'll be back if there are any more issues." As the officer walked away, Tyler stared at Mike. "Why did you do that?" Mike looked down at him, his eyes full of something Tyler didn't recognize. Because sometimes protecting someone means carrying weight they shouldn't have to, even if they don't see it. Tyler looked away, guilt creeping up his neck. Mike didn't scold him, didn't ask for the truth. He just stood there quietly tired, but still protecting him. And that hit Tyler harder than any punishment ever could. Mike didn't say a word during the ride home. The car was quiet except for the low hum of the engine and the soft buzz of the radio. Tyler sat in the passenger seat, looking out the window, his face pale and blank. Every time he tried to speak, the words stopped in his throat. He didn't know what to say or even how to start. When they reached the house, Mike parked the car and turned off the engine. He sat there for a moment, resting his hands on the steering wheel. Then he finally spoke, his voice calm but tired. "Go inside. I'll be there in a minute." Tyler nodded and walked into the house. Karen was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup on the stove. She looked up when she heard the door. "Where's Mike?" she asked. "He's outside," Tyler mumbled, avoiding her eyes. She could see something was off. "What happened at the school?" Tyler hesitated. "The police came. Someone said the tablet was stolen. They thought it might be me." Her face dropped. "What? Who said that?" "I did," Tyler whispered. "But Mike, he said it was him." Karen froze. "He what?" Tyler looked down at the floor. "He told them he was near the locker. He let them believe he took it." Just then, Mike walked in, his white shirt damp with sweat, and his eyes still carrying the same quiet sadness. Karen stared at him in disbelief. "You told the police you were involved?" Mike shrugged. "It was either that or let them take Tyler downtown for questioning. He's a kid. I can handle it." Karen's voice rose. "But it's not true. Why would you do that?" Mike looked at her calmly. "Because I'd rather carry that than see him get dragged into something worse. One mistake shouldn't ruin a kid's life." Tyler stood there, guilt tightening in his chest. He felt like the air in the room was too thick to breathe. Karen looked from Mike to her son, her hands shaking. "Did you take it, Tyler?" she asked, her voice low. Tyler nodded slowly. Yeah, some guys dared me. I thought it was just a joke. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Mike didn't say, I told you so. He didn't need to look angry. He just walked over to the kitchen sink and poured himself a glass of water. I'll go to the school tomorrow, Karen said. You're going to return that tablet, apologize, and tell them the truth. Tyler didn't argue. He just nodded. And Mike, Karen added, thank you. But you shouldn't have done that. Mike looked at her. Maybe not, but I've been in that seat before, accused of things I didn't do, and I know how fast it can spiral. I'd rather take the heat than watch him go through that. That night, the house was quiet. No teeth, no laughter. Just the sound of a family sitting in silence, each person lost in their own thoughts. Tyler lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment Mike stepped in front of the officer. He remembered the way Mike's body moved just slightly in front of his, like a shield. It wasn't the first time Mike had protected him, but this time Tyler finally saw it. And it hurt, because he knew he didn't deserve it. The next morning, Tyler sat at the kitchen table with his head down, pushing around a bowl of cereal he had no interest in eating. Karen sat across from him, arms crossed, her face tired but firm. You're going to school today, she said. You're going to return that tablet and tell them everything. Tyler nodded without looking up. I know. Mike walked in wearing his usual work boots and a clean shirt. He didn't speak right away. He just poured himself a cup of coffee and leaned against the counter. He looked at Tyler but didn't say anything. The silence made Tyler more nervous than yelling ever could. Karen stood up and grabbed her keys. Let's go. I'll walk in with you. They arrived at the school office a little after 8 a.m. Tyler carried the tablet in his backpack. His hands were shaking. When they stepped into the principal's office, the woman behind the desk looked up from her files and raised an eyebrow. Back so soon, she said. Karen nodded. My son has something to say. Tyler stepped forward slowly. I lied, he began, his voice low. It wasn't Mike. You wasn't here. I took the tablet. The principal's expression didn't change. She listened carefully as Tyler explained the whole story, how it was a dare, how he panicked, and how he blamed Mike to protect himself. When he finished, the room was quiet. The principal sighed. Thank you for telling the truth. There will be consequences, but owning up matters. We'll contact the student whose tablet it was and inform the parents. You'll serve in-school suspension for a few days and write a formal apology. Tyler nodded again. He didn't argue. He just wanted to get it over with. Outside the school, Karen placed a hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing finally. They drove home without much talking. When they reached the driveway, Mike was sitting on the porch steps, drinking coffee from his usual mug. Tyler stepped out of the car slowly and walked over to him. I told the truth, Tyler said. Mike nodded. Good. Tyler sat beside him, keeping a bit of distance. I'm sorry, he said, voice shaking. For dragging you into it. For lying. For everything. Mike looked straight ahead, not at Tyler. Why'd you do it? Tyler didn't answer right away. He looked down at his hands. I didn't want to get in trouble. I thought if I blamed someone else, it'd go away. Mike finally turned to look at him. You didn't think it hurt me? I didn't think, Tyler said. I just panicked. Mike sipped his coffee and stayed quiet for a while. Then he said, You've got a lot of growing up to do. But owning up is the first step. Tyler nodded. I want to fix things. Mike gave a small sigh. You can't fix trust overnight. It takes time, but you can earn it back. Not with words, with actions. Tyler looked up at him. Can I try? Mike finally gave a small nod. Yeah, you can try. They sat there for a few minutes, not saying much. The sun was rising higher, casting soft light across the yard. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a start. And for the first time in days, Tyler didn't feel like hiding. Monday came fast. Tyler walked through the school hallway with his head low and his backpack hanging heavy on his shoulder. Some students whispered when he passed. Others just stared. Everyone knew about the tablet now. The principal had made an announcement, without using names, but it wasn't hard for people to figure it out. Tyler didn't care about the stares. He just wanted to finish his in-school suspension and stay out of trouble. He spent most of the day in a quiet classroom, working on homework and writing his apology letter. He wrote it slowly, choosing each word with care. I took something that didn't belong to me. I blamed someone who didn't deserve it. I'd hurt people who trusted me. I'm sorry. It didn't feel like enough, but it was all he had. After school, Karen picked him up. She didn't ask many questions. She just looked at him and said, "You doing okay?" "Yeah," Tyler answered. "Better." At home, Mike was outside working on the backyard fence. The wood panels had been falling apart for months, but no one had touched them until now. Mike wiped sweat from his forehead and gave Tyler a small nod when he walked over. "Need help?" Tyler asked. Mike looked surprised for a second, but handed him a tool. "You know how to use a drill?" "Not really," Tyler admitted. "Good time to learn," Mike said. They worked together quietly. Mike showed Tyler how to hold the drill, how to press the screws in without stripping them. Tyler listened carefully. His hands shook at first, but he got better with each panel. As the sun started to set, Mike took a break and sat on a bench nearby. Tyler sat next to him, covered in sweat and dirt, but feeling proud. "I was thinking," Tyler said, "about what you said, about earning trust back." Mike nodded. "Yeah. I want to do more, not just say sorry. I want to help out more around the house, maybe even get a part-time job during summer." Mike looked at him. "That's a good start. But don't do it for me. Do it for you." "I will," Tyler said, "but also for you, because I messed up." Mike gave a small smile. "You did, but owning that matters." They sat quietly again. The backyard looked better already. It wasn't perfect, but it was improving just like them. Inside the house, Karen watched through the window. She saw her husband and her son sitting side by side, finally talking. She wiped a tear from her cheek and turned back to the stove. Later that evening, the three of them sat down for dinner. The mood was still quiet, but warmer. Tyler helped set the table. Mike passed him the bread. They ate like a family trying to rebuild what had been shaken. Before going to bed, Tyler stopped at Mike's room. He stood at the doorway for a moment. "Thanks for not giving up on me," he said. Mike looked up from his book. "Thanks for coming back from it." Tyler went to bed that night feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time, peace. He had made a mess, but now he was cleaning it up. Piece by piece, panel by panel, just like the fence. The next morning, Tyler woke up early. It was strange for him since he usually dragged himself out of bed just in time for school. But today felt different. He had promised himself he'd start changing things, and that meant doing the small stuff too. He went downstairs and saw Mike already in the kitchen, flipping pancakes on the stove. The smell filled the room. Mike looked up, surprised. "You're up early," he said. "Thought I'd help," Tyler replied, "or at least make the plates." Mike nodded and stepped aside. "Go ahead." Tyler grabbed the plates and silverware, setting the table carefully. He even poured orange juice into 3 glasses. Karen walked in a few minutes later, rubbing her eyes and smiling when she saw them both. "This is a nice change," she said. "2 of my boys in the kitchen." They ate breakfast together, and for the first time in weeks, the mood felt light. Not perfect, but better. After school, Tyler stayed back to talk with the student whose tablet he had taken. His name was Josh. They had never really talked before, and Tyler was nervous. "Hey," Tyler said, walking up to Josh at his locker. "Can we talk for a second?" Josh looked unsure. "About what?" "About the tablet," Tyler said quietly. "I'm sorry, man. I took it. I was being stupid, and I blamed someone who didn't deserve it." Josh didn't say anything for a moment. Then he shrugged. "Thanks for saying that. I got it back, so it's cool." Still, Tyler said, "I'm really sorry." Josh nodded. "Just don't do it again." I won't, Tyler said. On the way home, Tyler felt a bit lighter, like a weight had been lifted. When he got home, Mike was in the garage fixing the old lawnmower. Tyler walked in and asked, "Want me to hand you tools?" Mike glanced at him. "You serious?" Tyler nodded. "I mean, I don't know what half of them do, but I can learn." Mike gave him a small smile. "All right then, pass me the socket wrench." They worked for over an hour. Mike explained each tool and how to use it. Tyler paid close attention. Sometimes they joked. Sometimes they were quiet, but it felt good. Later that evening, Karen pulled Mike aside. "I've never seen him like this," she said. "He's trying," Mike replied. "He still has a long way to go, but he's starting to get it." "You were right to protect him," she said. "I didn't see it before, but now I do." Mike didn't answer right away. He just looked at her and nodded slowly. That night, Tyler sat on his bed, scrolling through his phone. He stopped when he saw an old picture, one of him and Mike at a soccer game from years ago. Mike had his arm around him, smiling like he was the proudest dad in the world. Tyler stared at the photo for a long time. He opened his messages and typed a new one to Mike, who was still downstairs. "Thanks for sticking around. I know I made it hard, but I'm going to do better." He didn't expect a reply right away, but a minute later one came. "That's all I ever wanted." Tyler smiled. He knew things weren't magically fixed, but they were changing. And this time he wasn't running from it. He was leaning in, step by step, one choice at a time. The weekend came, and with it, a chance to slow down. Tyler didn't sleep in like usual. Instead, he got up early and walked into the kitchen, where Mike was sipping coffee at the table. "Morning," Tyler said. "Morning," Mike replied, raising his mug slightly. Tyler opened the fridge, grabbed some eggs, and turned on the stove. Mike watched in silence as Tyler cracked them into a pan. The eggs weren't perfect. He burned the edges a little, but he didn't give up. "Want some?" Tyler asked. Mike nodded. "Sure." They ate together, the quiet between them no longer uncomfortable. After breakfast, Mike stood up. "I've got to run to the store. Need anything?" Tyler thought for a second. "Can I come?" Mike raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. "Yeah, let's go." At the store, Tyler helped carry bags, asked Mike's opinion about snacks, and didn't disappear into the toy aisle like he used to. When they got home, Tyler helped unload groceries without being asked. Karen noticed everything. From the doorway, she smiled softly. That afternoon, Mike worked on fixing a loose door hinge. Tyler grabbed a screwdriver and stood beside him. "Teach me." Mike nodded. "First, loosen this screw here. Not too much, just enough to realign the hinge." Tyler followed his directions, struggling a bit but getting the hang of it. When the door finally shut smoothly, he smiled with pride. "Not bad," Mike said. "Thanks," Tyler replied. "I think I like fixing stuff. It's good work." "Teaches patience," Mike said. Later that evening, Karen called them both into the living room. She had something on her mind. "I've been thinking about everything that happened," she began. "And I know things aren't fixed overnight. But I see the change in you, Tyler. And Mike, I want to say thank you for not giving up on this family." Mike looked at her and gave a small nod. "We all mess up. What matters is how we come back from it." Tyler shifted in his seat. "I want to be better. Not just for me, but for both of you." "Then keep going," Karen said. "This house isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up." Mike leaned back on the couch. "You've made a lot of progress, Tyler. Just don't stop." Tyler nodded. "I won't." That night, Tyler was in his room when he heard a knock on the door. It was Mike. "Just checking in," Mike said. "You good?" "Yeah," Tyler said, sitting up. "I've been thinking. I want to do more. Maybe help around the neighborhood. Mow lawns, walk dogs, stuff like that." Mike smiled. "A little hustle. I like that. I figure if I can earn some money, I'll save for something. Maybe help pay for my own stuff. I don't want to take things for granted anymore." Mike stepped into the room and sat on the edge of the bed. You know, most kids don't realize that until much later. You learning it now? That's a big deal. I'm learning because of you, Tyler said quietly. Mike looked at him, his face softening. Thanks. That means more than you know. As Mike stood to leave, he paused at the door. I'm proud of you, Tyler. Tyler's eyes widened slightly. He hadn't heard those words from a father figure before. Thanks, he said, voice shaky. The door clicked shut behind Mike. Tyler lay back, staring at the ceiling. He still had work to do. He still had mistakes to fix. But for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel alone. Sunday morning was quiet. Karen was at the grocery store, and Mike was out back watering the garden. Tyler sat at the kitchen table, flipping through an old photo album he found in the drawer. Most of the pictures were of Karen and Tyler when he was little, before Mike came into their lives. But a few pages later, he saw photos of Mike too. One photo showed Mike holding a younger Tyler on his shoulders at a carnival. Both of them were smiling wide, cotton candy in their hands. Tyler stared at it for a long time. He didn't even remember that day clearly, but Mike had been there. Always there. He closed the album and walked outside. Hey, he said as Mike turned off the hose. Hey, Mike replied. Everything okay? Yeah, I was just looking at old photos. I saw the one from the carnival. I forgot about that day. Mike smiled. You were scared of the roller coaster, but after one ride you didn't want to get off. Were you there the whole day? Yeah, Mike said. I'd always tried to be there. Tyler looked down. I wish I had seen it sooner. I acted like you didn't matter. Mike nodded slowly. Sometimes people don't see what's in front of them. It's part of growing up. Tyler took a deep breath. I want to make it up to you. Not just by saying sorry. I want to really be your family. Mike looked at him closely. That means a lot, Tyler. And it starts by being honest, being present, just like you've been doing. You think we can ever be like, really close? Tyler asked. Only if we both keep trying, Mike answered. That afternoon, Tyler grabbed a rake and started helping Mike clean the yard. He worked hard, dragging leaves into piles and bagging them. Every so often, Mike gave him pointers, and Tyler listened. After they finished, they sat on the porch steps, drinking cold lemonade. Karen returned home and saw them laughing about something. She paused before going inside, just watching them for a moment. Inside later that night, Karen called both of them to the living room. I've been thinking, she said. We've been through a lot lately, and I think we should do something together. A family trip. Something small. Like a weekend trip? Tyler asked. Yeah, Karen said. Just us. Some time away from all this. Mike nodded. Sounds good to me. Maybe the lake, Tyler said. I haven't been since I was a kid. The lake it is, Karen agreed. They started planning, laughing at old memories and new ideas. For the first time in a long while, the house felt light again. Later that night, Tyler walked into Mike's room. Can I ask you something? Tyler said. Sure. When people ask, can I say you're my dad? Mike's eyes softened. You can say whatever feels true to you. Tyler thought for a moment. Then yeah, I think you are. Mike nodded, his voice low. Then that's what I'll be. They sat in silence, but it was a good silence, one that felt like healing. It didn't matter that they weren't related by blood. What mattered was what they were building now. With every action, with every choice. They were becoming something real. Something stronger than names or titles. They were becoming family. The weekend trip to the lake came faster than expected. Karen packed snacks and drinks, while Tyler made sure to bring board games and a speaker for music. Mike loaded the car with folding chairs, towels, and a cooler filled with food. The drive was peaceful. Tyler sat in the back seat, humming along to a song on the radio. Karen laughed at Mike's old playlist, and even Mike joined in with a quiet chuckle. It wasn't the kind of loud, perfect family road trip you see in movies, but it felt real. When they arrived at the lake, the sky was clear and the water shimmered under the sunlight. They picked a spot near the edge under a big tree for shade. Karen laid out a blanket while Mike set up the chairs. Tyler kicked off his shoes and ran toward the water, splashing around like a little kid. Mike watched him and smiled. "He's come a long way," he said softly. Karen nodded. "Because you never left, even when he pushed you away." They'd spent the day swimming, talking, and eating sandwiches. Tyler tried to teach Karen how to skip stones, but she kept dropping them instead. Mike showed Tyler how to build a small campfire, and they toasted marshmallows as the sun went down. As the stars started to appear, Tyler sat between Mike and Karen, wrapped in a blanket. He looked up at the sky, then down at the fire. "I used to think family had to be perfect," he said. "Like, no yelling, no mistakes. But now I think it's about staying, even when things get messy." Mike looked at him. "That's the truth, right there." "I made a mess," Tyler added. "But you still stayed. Both of you." Karen leaned in and gave him a small hug. "We stayed because we love you. And love doesn't quit." Tyler looked at Mike. "You still proud of me?" Mike smiled. "Every day more than the last." They sat quietly for a few minutes, listening to the sounds of crickets and the soft water hitting the shore. Before packing up, Tyler pulled out his phone and took a selfie with Mike and Karen, the campfire glowing in the background. "I want to remember this," he said. On the way back home, Tyler dozed off in the back seat. Karen glanced at Mike as she drove. "You did that," she whispered. "You helped him grow." "We both did," Mike replied. "But he made the choice." A few days later, back home, Tyler got a message from his teacher. She said she noticed a big change in him. He was more focused, more respectful, and more involved in class. She told him she was proud. Tyler showed the message to Mike. "Guess I'm doing something right." "You're doing a lot right," Mike said. "Just keep going." That evening they had dinner together. Tyler offered to do the dishes without being asked. Afterward, they watched a movie, all three on the couch, sharing popcorn. When it was time for bed, Tyler turned to Mike at the bottom of the stairs. "Good night, Dad," he said. Mike paused. It was the first time Tyler had called him that without hesitation. "Good night, son," Mike answered. Tyler smiled and went upstairs. Mike stood there for a moment, taking it in. It had taken time, patience, pain, but what they had now was real. A family not built by blood, but by love, forgiveness, and choosing each other again and again.